Iron Gold by Pierce Brown. This is the fourth book in the Red Rising series. 596 pages with 56 chapters. This is really the Ash Lord conclusion, the final battle, if you will, there. But also, Lysander is the underdog to Darrow's, group. The Rising has become mainstream, and, this is the next wheel in the saga. So there's a bunch of new characters. Of course, Darrow is talked about as the main character, but there are a number of other main characters introduced. So set 10 years later, I actually had trouble picking up this book, and it was my own mental block in that the trilogy ended on such a good note. It was all wrapped up in a nice, neat little package, happy ending for the first trilogy. I really didn't want to start more conflict and war and stuff, disaster. So it took me a while to pick this up, but once I did, I'm glad I did. This is a really good book. I really enjoyed it. There were a lot of different angles and new conflicts to come up with. It took me a while to warm up to some of the new characters, but they were connected to older characters, so it fit nicely. It took a little while to warm up to them. So we've got Mercury was liberated in those 10 years, so the Rising conquered Mercury, and they now have Mercury, Mars, Earth, and the Moon, and Mars's moons. So you've got like a nice inner cluster, and then the core, which is Venus and Mercury. Venus is still under society control by the Ash Lord and his daughter. And then you have the rim, which is everything past Earth. So that's kind of the dividing lines. And the Rising is, kind of, I don't want to say stalled out, but they, hit a wall, right? They had, a time where they grouped up and got Earth, Mars, Luna, all that was liberated, and then they kind of, slogged down into this fight. And so Darrow goes against the Senate's wishes and invades Mercury and does an Iron Rain before this book. And so this is like the consequences of that happening. Different groups, the Obsidians aren't happy with it, so they're kind of like on the fence there. But yeah, so the enemies, society controls Venus, and the Rim Lords control everything out past Earth. So Lysander, he is a ward of Cassius, so this details their adventure. They're out near the rim, and then they discover a ship in distress, and that kicks off their adventure into the rim. And Lysander's really, I would call it a journey into the rim. He gets taken in, discovered, and he is caught up in some palace intrigue on what they are deciding to do. Do they stay in the rim, or do they go past and take back society now the sovereign's gone? So how they deal with the Rising is all up in the air, and they're kind of figuring it out along the way. And he stumbled upon the secret, right? Darrow took out the docks at Ganymede, and had one of his former lieutenants, the poet, take the fall for it, like blaming it on the sovereign. And so this piece of information that everybody's looking for is a video that details who actually was responsible, which was Darrow. And so that caused a rift in the rim. Everybody is, there's two sides, the husband and wife, and everybody, is kind of picking sides, and everything's in upheaval. So that's the rim. You've got Ephraim. He's a newer character. Holiday's brother's lover. He is a criminal. He's in thieving crews, but really I don't want to say disgruntled, but like, he lost everything and is searching for meaning and all that stuff, but his thieving crew ends up getting contracted to steal Pax and Electra. So Darrow's son and their chief ally's daughter. That is a huge conflict. They actually end up butting heads with the syndicate, and just everything goes crazy there. And so that's a whole thing. That's another storyline. Darrow is then setting his sights on Venus after Mercury is conquered. So he's back on Luna with his family, and he has to abandon his son, right, to go to war. And so that's a whole deal. His wife as well, like he has to leave his family to go to war. So they end up, instead of going to Venus, they go to Earth and prison break a former society, figurehead who has titles and wealth and all that stuff, but is in prison. So they break him out, the Minotaur, take him to Venus, and then they gather forces and take on the Ash Lord. So don't want to reveal how that ends, but that's that conflict. And then you got Lyria. She is stuck on Mars. Red Hand comes in, takes out her family. She still has Liam, and she's looking for a better life. She rescues Telements, I think the father of the family, and then, gets in that way, and then gets caught up in everybody else's events and has trouble finding a better life for her family and discovering who she is in the process. So that's a whole thing. This book was a good one. Lots of new characters. It made me think about this whole universe and like what the conflicts are and that kind of thing, and really what it meant to stand for something. They each have their own reasons for doing what they're doing, but they're all kind of tangled up and life is just messy. So how it made me feel, I really liked the adventures in this one. There was a lot of politics, I do give it that, but the adventures were a lot of fun, and that made it easier to get through the politics. The chapters, I felt like the chapters were just right, 10 or 11 pages on average. It was a good combo, and I had trouble because it was really, I didn't know who the iron gold was supposed to represent, if it's supposed to represent everybody as a whole. To me, it was Cassius, because he did such a sweet, awesome last stand. I know there's more to it than that, but he, is mentoring his former enemy, and he's doing what's right and all that stuff. And, he's just trying to do the right thing. And I admired him for that. I think iron gold applies to him. I think it was meant to be for Lysander. He's kind of on the up and coming and, becoming a new one, but he hasn't really done anything of note yet. He has all the upbringing, all the skills, all the knowledge, but he hasn't, done anything yet. So we'll see how that goes. The Syndicate conflict was super cool. I don't want to talk too much about it, but you get to meet the Duke of Hands. Supposedly there's a Duke of every body part. I don't know. We'll see. But Volga is really cool. She's an obsidian in Ephraim's thieving crew, and I really hope they do more with her, because I think she's my favorite character in this book, besides Cassius. It's a tug of war. They're both really awesome. But yeah, I like Volga. I think Volga would be my choice for favorite character. So going forward, I hope to see more of her. And then this quote is after Telements is rescued by Lyra. He's talking because the Red Hand killed her family. I thought she would protect us, the Sovereign. He's silent for a while. I know it may be impossible to believe now, when everything is dark and broken, but you will survive this pain, little one. Pain is a memory. You will live, you will struggle, and you will find joy. And you will remember your family from this breath to your dying days, because love does not fade. Love is the stars, and its light carries on long after death. That was really awesome. I just couldn't get enough of that quote. I read it 4 or 5 times over and over again. Just such a good moment after such a disaster. So really cool. I hope that carries on. This was a good book. Pick it up if you can, and remember to buy your books used.